reading comprehension, right? Couple of things we already said. Apart from that, it's good to always categorize questions, right? So when I say categorize questions, you could look at, okay, I have some vocabulary questions. I might have a skim question, which means what's the overall message, what's the title of the passage, blah, blah, blah. Then I might have some scan questions, a little bit more detailed oriented questions, which I need to pay attention in the passage. So the first question we have is, according to the passage, for which of the following reasons did Fortinet conduct the survey on a group of graduate employees in their early 20s? Okay, another pattern that you can probably look at when it comes to these question types is usually, right, you'll have the first question ideally in the first or second paragraph. You know what I mean? It's easier for you to read and find out. Even if you want to just make sure and try and understand what the answer is, you go back and you can look at it, right? Look at the passage, and you will find the question more or less around the first paragraph. So the first question, it says, what were the reasons why Fortinet conducted the survey in the first place on a group of graduates in their early 20s. So options: as this group represents the future decision makers, as this group represents the first generation who entered the workforce with a better understanding of sophisticated gadgets. C, as this group represents the first generation to enter the workplace expecting that they can use their own devices for work purpose. Now, I want you to also apply basic logic, okay? Now, out of these three options, we can safely eliminate one option without even going back to the passage. What option is that? B, right? Why? Because it says the group represents the first generation entered the workforce with a better understanding of sophisticated gadgets. Now, this may not necessarily be true, right? You're a graduate, you still probably are kind of finding your way in terms of knowledge on certain gadgets, right? So, not necessarily that you have a better understanding of sophisticated gadgets. You're still young, you're still exploring. That does not discount that young people don't have information or knowledge. In fact, they have more, if I should say, right? So you can safely eliminate B. And remember, it's a survey conducted for a specific reason, right? So again, irrespective of what we think or what our opinions are, always also remember that the answers should be supported by the passage. So having said that, if you look at the answer option, the passage supports A and C, as this group represents the future decision makers, and also because they come with a certain expectation that they can use their own device, right? Which is also supported in the passage. It very clearly says here, right, specifically the survey was conducted in 15 territories on a group of graduate employees in the early 20s because they represent the first generation to enter the workplace. So that's option A, with an expectation of own device use, right? I mean, option A also says tomorrow's influencers and decision makers, right? So that's very clear. So A and C is supported by the passage, so it has to be option 3. Which of the following is not true as per BYOD? So what is BYOD? Bring your own device. We've understood that from the passage. So what is not true? Again, let's look at our options. BYOD enables employees to access enterprise network from anywhere and anytime. Due to evolution of BYOD trend, the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. model of working solely from office has become outdated. Option 3. Recent research has confirmed that BYOD boosts organizational productivity. Option 4. The concept of cloud computing facilitates the BYOD trend. Option 5. All the given facts are true. So we're looking at what is not true, right? So again, if you've paid attention in the passage, sometime the initial 1 or 2 passages, right? It very clearly says certain things that are true with respect to the BYOD trend, right? In fact, let's quickly, it says the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. model of working solely from us has become archaic and increasingly so archaic. That's mentioned in one of the options. Then it says at the very heart of this evolution, ability to access enterprise networks anywhere, anytime, that's also mentioned. Concept of cloud computing, right? That's also mentioned. So what is not mentioned? Because we have this thing contradicting here, if you look at this, if you've paid attention to this line, it says, recent research has suggested this is the greatest myth of BYOD, and the reality is that BYOD in practice poses new challenges that they may outweigh the benefits. So what is the myth? The much heralded benefit of BYOD is greater productivity. That's the myth, right? So what is not true in the passage is, because that's the one that they are countering. So it has to be which option? Recent research has confirmed that BYOD boosts organizational productivity is the only option that is not true. It's completely contradicting what is there in the passage. Option 3. Let's move on. According to the passage, why would the decision to embrace BYOD prove dangerous to smaller financial businesses? Why would it prove dangerous to smaller financial businesses? So we have that addressed as well in the passage. What are our options first? Their employers have poor knowledge about their devices, which in turn poses a threat to confidential data of the organization. Their employees are more vulnerable to misplacement of devices. They may lack mature IT strategies and policies required to protect confidential data. They cannot afford to deal with damage liability issues of employee-owned devices. Their employees have a tendency to change jobs frequently. Yeah? So go back. Let's look at the passage. And here towards the end, it says, the survey findings, I want you to pay attention here. The survey findings reveal that for financial organizations, the decision to embrace BYOD is extremely dangerous. Why? Because it says larger organizations will have mature IT strategies and policies in place. So what about the smaller financial businesses? They might not have such well developed, so they may not have these mature IT strategies. Right? So we have the passage supporting a specific pointer here. And which pointer is that? Option 3. They may lack mature IT strategies and policies required to protect confidential data. According to the passage, the expectation of younger employees that they should be allowed to use their own devices in the workplace entails which of the following risks? So let's look at it. ABC again, younger employees may deliberately transfer confidential data of their companies to rivals if they are not allowed to use their own devices for work purposes. Younger employees may strongly feel like leaving the company if it prevents usage of their own device and join some other company that does not have such stringent policies. Younger employees may consider flouting company policy prohibiting usage of their own devices in the workplace or for work purposes. Again, if you've paid attention while reading the passage, there is no mention about A and B at all, right? Deliberate transferring of confidential data is not mentioned. Also, leaving the company if it prevents usage of their own device also is not mentioned. These are just additional pointers to kind of confuse us, right? So what's the only thing that the passage supports? The 9th question, the only thing the passage supports is 1, right? Only C, which is what is there, right? Let's look at the passage quickly. So in the passage, if you look at this particular paragraph that is staring at you, it says here, crucially within younger employee group, 55% of the people share an expectation that they should be allowed to use their own device in the workplace or for work purposes. Why is that? With this expectation comes a very real risk that employees may consider contravening company policy, banning the use of own devices, blah blah blah, right? So that's what is mentioned in option C, which is only option 1. Yep. Next, according to the findings of the survey conducted by Fortinet, why do majority of employees prefer using their own devices for work purposes? What are my options? As they often find that the devices provided by the company lack quality as they have access to their favorite applications while working, as majority of them believe that output doubles when they use their own devices for work purpose, as handling data from their own devices reinforces their sense of responsibility as it helps them create a brand of their own. Now again, this is an easy question. If you had just skimmed through the passage also, you would have been able to find the answer. It's very clearly saying option 2 the passage also supports that. Quickly going back to the passage, it says here, only 26% of people in their age group cite efficiency as the reason they want to use their own devices, while 63%, majority of them, main reason is so that they can have access to their favorite applications. So that's being taken care of. And then the last one was the skim question, right? Are the author's main objective in writing the passage? Let's look at our options. To break the myth that BYOD promotes employee efficiency and organizational productivity, to suggest ways to control subversion across levels of corporate chain of command, to throw light upon the fact that employees, even after knowing the risks involved, prefer to use their own devices for work purpose, mostly for personal benefits. So, out of these options, what is the one that is highlighted throughout the passage? What is the author trying to convey? If you look at option B, it says he's not suggesting ways to control subversion across levels, but he's clearly, the first paragraph clearly says that, this is a myth that BYOD actually promotes employee efficiency. He starts off with that. And then towards the end, we know for a fact that, irrespective of employees knowing that it will pose a greater risk, them spending so much time on their devices, which is not for efficiency, but for their own personal use, is what he's highlighting. So it has to be A and C, option 1. And it can't be any other option. We've come back to the vocabulary questions and we're looking at synonyms and antonym questions. So the first two is synonyms. Heralded, where does this appear in the passage? Let's go back. So right here, it says, the concept of cloud computing serves effectively to extend the office hours. The much heralded benefit of BYOD is greater productivity. The much heralded benefit. So heralded here is an adjective, right? It is talking about positive word, obviously. The much heralded benefit of BYOD. So hyped up, talked about, right? That's the meaning that the word is giving in the passage. So looking at my options, what can be my response? Let's look at it. So I have suspected, publicized, dragged, objective benefit. So there is nothing suspected about it. It's saying the much heralded benefit of this is, so the much talked about, the much hyped thing, it has to be publicized, right? So understand the meaning that the word gives in the context. And outweigh we already saw, surpass, right? If you want to check again, you can go back and look at the context where it appears. So let's do that for the benefit of those who are finding it difficult to arrive at the answer. So outweigh also comes here. It says, however, recent research has suggested that this is the greatest myth of BYOD, and the reality is that BYOD in practice poses new challenges that may outweigh the benefits. So the challenges takes over the benefits. The challenges are more than the benefits. So outweigh, we understand it over and above, right? So it has to be surpass. So the next two question types are antonyms. Choose a word which is most opposite in meaning to the word printed in bold. So embrace, we already saw the meaning of it. Reject. Subversion, let's go back and look at the context. Subversion, where it appears. So it appears right here. It says, the threats posed by this level of subversion cannot be overstated. What level of subversion? The real risk that employees may consider contravening company policy banning the use of own devices, right? So in the context, can you tell me what meaning is subversion given? Causing damage, disruption or destruction that is happening in the company where people are not adhering to the policy, company policy, and they just go and do their own thing, which is use their own device, no matter what. So having said that, now that we have an idea of what subversion means in the context, right? Let's look at our options. Compliance, sanity, popularity, destabilization, clarity. So we understand subversion is you're not adhering to what the company policy is, right? You're just doing whatever you want. You're not adhering in the context. Not adhering to the company policy. That's the meaning that the word is giving. So obviously the opposite of that has to be option 1, compliance, which means you're adhering. Compliance means to agree, to fall in line with the norms or with the policy, right?